Well, hello there, and welcome to Cityline. We are Zooming from my kitchen into your home. And of course, it's a pleasure and a privilege to be with you. We have a lot to get through this next hour. Later on, we'll be talking with Bloodworks Northwest. Kurt will be here to talk about some of the supply levels that they have. And then Sound Transit will be here also to talk about an update on all of the links and all of the detours. Scott always brings us such a great comprehensive report. You don't want to miss that. And we also have with us Tacoma Musical Playhouse and Tacoma Little Theater for their shared main stage production of All Together Now. And of course, the Humane Society will be here with our Pet of the Week. And with me right now are two very familiar looking lumberjacks. They happen to make their living working at the Rainbow Center, and they are here to talk about Cabin Fever, the Black and White Gala coming up. Please join me in welcoming Troy Christensen. You are the Executive Director of the Rainbow Center. Welcome back, my precious friend.
Thank you. Glad to be here, Amanda.
It's great to have you here. And you brought with you this handsome man, Mr. Marshall Samuel. You are I love your title, Celebrations Manager. I want that job.
You can have it. It's all yours.
Well, if I have it, do I have to wear the hat?
Yes, it's a part of the requirement. This is the uniform, actually.
Oh, okay, well, I'm in then. Flannel and hats, can you just see me in that?
Absolutely. I'm surprised that we haven't seen you in that.
Well, there we go. All the more reason why I'll have to attend the Black and White Gala. And so, Troy, let's talk about this. How many years has this event been happening now?
This is the 19th year, if you can believe that. We started this 5 years into the Rainbow Center, and Rainbow Center will be 25 next year, and the gala will be 20. And it will be the perfect time to get back in person and celebrate bigger than ever.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, 25 next year. I can already see the mischief that the two of you are going to be up to for that. So, Marshall, the big question, of course, is, will the event be in person this year or is it virtual?
So we decided to move towards a virtual platform. We thought it would be best to protect the community with the COVID numbers still on the rise, not everyone being vaccinated, and with the Delta variant. And that's why Pride was still a virtual event. We did have sort of smaller in-person events that were outside, but for the Black and White Gala, it was best for us to focus on the community and their safety and do a virtual event.
Yeah, and I think that you guys made a really good call on that. And I know that the Rainbow Center, just the team as a whole, has such a heart for our community. And this decision happened right when Delta showed up. And,
yes.
You say it so eloquently and so smoothly, Marshall, but it was not an easy decision, was it?
No, it wasn't. And a lot of people wanted to have an in-person event. And we even thought about doing a hybrid event, but logistically, it's just been easier to do just a virtual event. And even though it is virtual, and I'm sure that all of us are exhausted by a virtual event, it's going to be so entertaining, I promise you. So.
Well, then spill the beans. What's the theme this year, Marshall?
If you couldn't tell by our attire, it is Cabin Fever Home Edition. So we get that people are exhausted by virtual events and being home. So why not sort of have a tongue-in-cheek moment and sort of play to that? So it's like, oh, you're going to sort of stir crazy. You're in this cabin fever, hence the theme, and here we are.
Brilliant. There's a reason why you are the celebrations manager, okay? That's all I got to say about that, mister. So, Troy, cabin fever. If this doesn't fit for all of us in the middle of a pandemic, I don't know what does. I'm thinking that you could easily have the best cabin fever story of when you just have had enough of the people you live with. So how does this translate into the theme of the event? Because cabin fever means we want to get out.
Exactly. Everyone is stir crazy. And, I think that's true in general. But the LGBTQ plus community, we like to get together. We like to celebrate. This feels, I think, a little different for us than the rest of the community because we're sort of shoved back in a space that's not the way we like to be. We want to be in person. We want to be dancing. We want to be singing. We want to be celebrating. And so, yes, this is, it was in hopes of reflecting how people are feeling right now. Because everyone, not only are they sick of being inside and not being able to get out and celebrate, but as Marshall said, you sit on Zoom meetings all day long. You don't want to go to an online event on a Saturday night. So this is our way of trying to entice people to come to this event. As Marshall said, it is very entertaining. It's less than an hour. It's probably actually about 45 minutes. So we're hoping the brevity and the entertainment, if the word gets out about both of those, that we'll get as many registrants as we can.
I love that. For the years that the Rainbow Center has been producing the Black and White Gala, every year it is memorable, it is fun. It's a chance to give back and it's a chance to reconnect. And all of that can still happen over our computer. So get in there and get registered. But we also want to know, Troy, as we give and give generously, what is the focus for this year's gala investment?
Well, there are two areas that have been hit pretty hard this year that we want to focus on. One is the number of break-ins we have had at the center. Crime is higher right now around the country in general, and we've not been passed up by that. Fortunately, they're not hate crimes because everyone else in the neighborhood is getting the same treatment. But replacing broken glass, hiring security guards, updating security systems, putting in new magnetic locks, all of that costs money. And that's not generally a sexy thing for people to donate for, but it is a reality for us right now. The other area is our individual advocacy work for people who have been wronged in some way as a result of their sexual orientation or gender identity. And the need has gone up significantly during the pandemic, and the resources are not what they once were. So we're doing our best to hustle everywhere we can to make sure anyone in need receives our assistance, but also looking for additional funding and highlighting this for this event in hopes that donors will understand that people with, well, I won't even say that. I was going to say people with less privilege need our assistance, but with or without privilege, you may need our assistance if you've been the victim of harassment, discrimination, or God forbid, a hate crime. And that happens, and it happens a lot still, even in Tacoma where it's illegal. And so we help people navigate through all of the systems necessary to try and make them whole. And so that's an area that we're also asking people during the Fund a Need.
I love that. So Troy, let's talk about, is there going to be a silent auction that leads up to the event, or is it going to be just the event and a chance to give?
There is an online auction, so it works like a silent auction, and both items that normally would go in our silent auction and items that would normally go in our live auction will both be there online. And that will start a week before the event. It'll start on November 6th and go through the day after the event, November 14th. So you need to register in order to get online and see those items and bid on them. And we have something for everyone. We have $25 gift certificates all the way up to vacation spots around the globe.
I love that. So what is next for the Rainbow Center, Troy?
Well, I think the next thing for Rainbow Center is for us to continue to move toward an anti-racist framework within our organization and our service delivery model. We've been working on that for the past 2 years, and we've had some success with that, but that's a never-ending process. And we want to continue to do better and better by the populations identified as BIPOC, which are Black, Indigenous, and other people of color. And in order to do that, we have to spend a lot of time as an organization talking about who we are, what we do, how we do it, how we outreach, where we invest our time and our money. And we do that as a whole team, which is really exciting. But we know that there's still more work to do. And both the board and the staff are working with consultants to move us forward in this area. And then the other area I would say is just the amount of advocacy need that there is right now, both legislative advocacy and individual advocacy. And so what is next for us as far as administration is figuring out how we fund programs to the level that the need exists. And so this auction is part of it. And I will say that on Saturday night during the program, there will be what is the traditional raise the paddle, where people are able to give cash donations. So we're hoping between the auction and the donations that we raise over $100,000 this year. It's about a third of what we raise in a live auction, but we're realistic based upon last year, based upon how tired people are of online meetings.
Yes, absolutely. So Marshall, as you have put all of this together like a huge tapestry, I know that you have sponsors, that nobody does this alone. It takes a village. So last question for both of my lumberjacks, who do you need to thank? And Marshall, we'll start with you first.
Yeah, I want to start off by thanking the staff at Rainbow Center, the volunteers, the committee board. God, this is my moment to have like my Academy Award speech prepared. So I also want to thank Amazon, Alma Mater, Group Health Foundation, Tucumã Urban League, PLU, Multicare, PCAF, Kaiser, Puget Sound Energy, Financial Insights, First Citizens Bank, Mary Mart, Union Ave Compound Pharmacy, and the Puyallup Tribe. So those are my thank yous.
Well,
I will add a thank you to our board of directors, many of whom have really stepped up during this season to make this event what it can be. Because Marshall and I can't do that on our own. It takes a lot of people out there with a lot of connections making things happen.
Absolutely. Well, this continues to be the event of the year that everybody wants to be at, be it in person or virtual. And I just want to say thank you to both of you and your teams and anybody who touched this as you continue every single day to stand by our mayor's proclamation that we are an anti-racist city and we are a compassionate Tacoma. And I thank you both for being such great living, breathing examples of that. And I'll see you at the event.
Thank you.
And
great to see you.
Great to see both of you. We have our pet of the week from the Humane Society. Let's take a look at that sweet pea that needs a forever home.
Hi, Amanda. This is Gavin. He's a 2-year-old neutered male, domestic medium-haired kitty cat. He is the biggest cuddle bug. And of course, like all of our pets, he comes microchipped, vaccinated, and up to date with a vet visit from our lovely vets here. If you wanted to visit Gavin or you wanted to see any of our other available pets, feel free to visit us at www.thehumanesociety.org, or you can always come down to the shelter. We're located at 2608 Center Street in Tacoma.
People of the Pacific Northwest, we live in one of the most beautiful places in the world. Aren't we lucky? Water flows from high up in the Cascades all the way down to the Sound. small actions make a big difference. So pick up after your pets to keep bacteria out of local streams. Because Puget Sound starts here, and here, and here, and here.
Welcome back to Cityline. With me, I have a man that I think about a lot as I'm driving around Tacoma, and I am making my way around constructions, and I'm reading signs and following the detours. And yep, he's here right now, and we have questions. Please join me in welcoming Scott Thompson. You are with Sound Transit, and you are the Public Information Officer. Welcome back to Cityline.
Thanks, Amanda. It's great to be here again.
It's great to have you here, and I do mean that. I do think about you. I think, what is this on schedule? What does Scott think about this? So let's just jump in, shall we?
Sure. So I think you're talking about our Hilltop Tacoma Link extension project. You know, our 2.5 miles of new light rail line there in downtown Tacoma. You know, interestingly, I've toured the project a couple times the last couple days, and you know there's a lot of progress that we've made. There's still a lot of work going on. I can tell you, you know, the track work, the rails in the street, we're almost 99% complete with that work. Yeah, and you're starting to see, if you've been through that corridor, you're starting to see the station platforms take formation, the canopies that are going to be at those station platforms, the steel structures are starting to go up. So it's really starting to look like, you know, a transit line. Now, it's not just all the underground stuff we've been doing, but you're actually starting to see stuff above ground. And I think that's pretty exciting. We've still got a lot of major work to do. There's going to be a major tie-in there around 9th and Commerce, where we have to tie in the existing line to the new line. That's going to be one of the last big parts of this project that we've got to do. And when we do that, we're likely going to have to shut down Tacoma Link for about 30 days or so to make all those system tie-ins. So we did this back over the summer when we tied in new rail at our expanded OMF there on 25th around the Tacoma Dome area. And we'll set up a bus bridge as we did last time and have shuttle buses going back and forth to still allow people to use Tacoma Link. The other big work that I think that's going on is up on Martin Luther King Boulevard, where we're installing over 11,000 feet of new curb and gutter on both sides of Martin Luther King. Some in front of your studios there right now going on. So that's a lot of work going on. There's new signals going in. There's the power poles for the overhead catenary system lines, you know, the electrical, you know, current that will power the trains. So that's all going in. But we're really excited, and we're looking forward to opening that new line in 2022.
Absolutely. So last time we talked, we spoke about an open house you were going to host one to gather input for the Tacoma and Lakewood stations. How did that go?
Yeah, so we've got a couple projects for the South Tacoma and the Lakewood Sounder stations down there, and they're access projects, which means for us, it's how do we provide more access for people to walk, bike, drop people off, you know, get more people to those sounder stations in those neighborhoods easily. And how can we make that easier for people to get there? And it may, you know, we're also looking at parking. Parking may not be in the budget. We have a relatively small, you know, bucket of money for both these stations, but we've been doing a couple rounds of dialogue with, looking for community input. We are doing a lot of talking with city officials in Tacoma and in Lakewood about what they'd like to see and how can we integrate those stations better into those surrounding neighborhoods, and what are some paths they would like to see to get people to those sounder stations. I think, you know, the community feedback's been good. You know, people are looking for more pedestrian access and more bike access, whether that's, can we help with bike lanes? Can we improve sidewalks? Can we build some pedestrian bridges over busy roadways? All those types of things. What enhancements can we do at the station? So we're likely going to go before our board with some proposals of projects, in the first quarter of next year to get their gauge and what should we move forward with. And then that'll continue our process on. So we're really in the early planning process for this and gathering feedback. But, in the next probably 6 to 8 months, we'll bring some projects before our board for some further discussion and decisions from them.
You remind me that projects always have questions around them. And as we move forward, there's always questions that we can anticipate and questions that we cannot anticipate. Sound Transit, you have a writer survey, and that's for those of us who hop on a link or hop on the bus through November 12th. How's the response been so far?
I think the response has been pretty good. We're having some challenges, particularly in Pierce County now. We partner, Sound Transit doesn't operate a lot of the transit systems that we run. So we don't, for the ST Express buses, we contract in Pierce County with Pierce Transit to provide those operators and things like that. And one of the things that we're experiencing there is Pierce County is really a shortage of drivers right now. So we're looking to how can we best, maximize the workforce that they have and keep bus routes going. So, we don't want to cut bus routes because we can't operate them, but there is going to probably this fall be some reduction of how many routes we're able to get out of Pierce County, just because we don't have Pierce Transit doesn't have enough operators to run all the buses. And that's, it's not, I don't think it's really a pandemic related thing. There's a lot of workforce shortages in a lot of industries right now all over. So, we're trying to do the best we can to, mitigate disruptions and make sure people can get to where they're going. But, those are things we want to hear in the writer surveys. We get more information about what people want to see and what do they like. And so that influences how we, plan service later on down the line.
Absolutely. Scott, in the couple of years I've been interviewing you, one of the things I enjoy about our conversations is that you are in the business of lowering barriers. That's what you do. Transportation barriers, feedback barriers, and pandemic barriers. So let's go back to, in order to keep both the Sound Transit staff and your riders safe, what COVID protocols are in place now?
So it's still a federal requirement to wear a mask on transit systems, and that's bus, Sounder, Link Light Rail, Tacoma Link. That's a federal mandate that we have. Our agency has implemented a vaccine mandate as well, and we're as an agency, I think we're around 99%, compliant with that. Now that doesn't necessarily mean the operators. All our operating partners have their own policies and stuff that they do for their employees as well too. So. But basically, the big one out there is still the masking, and that's something we're following from the federal government. So as long as that's in place, we will ask people to do that. We have dispensers for masks. If people forget one, we have dispensers on almost all our vehicles for people to pick up a mask, and so we'll make them readily available, and we encourage people to still continue to mask up and do what they can to help with the pandemic.
Absolutely. So Scott, I know you are a planner. You are always thinking ahead. So what are the future Sound Transit projects in Pierce County right now?
Well, I think the big one that's, still on the horizon is getting Link Light Rail from Federal Way to Tacoma. If folks were following our discussions over the summer with the board on realignment, that project was originally scheduled for 2030. That has now been pushed back a couple years to 2032. So there's, we will be publishing a draft environmental impact statement for that project mid next year. There will be another round of public feedback as part of that process to come back in it. And then eventually down the line, we will go to the board and they will pick some preferred alternatives. You know, we're still looking at, you know, various routes, various station locations as part of that project. I think one of the other things that is now getting pushed back a little bit there, you know, that project currently includes 4 stations. We'll have a station in South Federal Way, 1 in Fife, and 2 in Tacoma. And there were parking with a couple of those stations. That parking may also get delayed. Those parking initiatives may get delayed as well because of our financial realignments and what the board did with realignment. But we're still moving forward. That's probably the biggest project on the horizon. I must also give a shout out to where I live in Puyallup. We are constructing a new parking garage and surface parking lot for the Puyallup Sounder Station here that should open in the spring of 2022. A new, 500 plus parking garage and a 165 space surface parking lot. Puyallup happens to be one of our most used sounder stations in the South Corridor. So we think that's going to be a great boon as well. And we've also, if you're a sounder, we've also added back a couple sounder trips this fall. So you can now get an early afternoon trip out of Seattle back down south and things like that, which had been cut during the pandemic. So, and we're starting to run more game trains for Seahawks games this fall too. So we just ran one last Sunday for folks in Pierce County to get up to the Seahawks games. We have a couple more of those for the fall. So things are starting to come back as they were, pre-pandemic, but we're still working toward all that.
Scott, I cannot say thank you enough. I feel so fortunate to have you on once every 4 or 5 months. And when I do, it amazes me the amount of work that you and your team have accomplished in that short amount of time. As I've been driving through Tacoma going, wow, when is this detour going to end? But I got to tell you, so impressive. Scott, thank you to you and your team for continuing to lower barriers and continuing to show us the way home, to work, and to the grocery store. You make a living in this community pretty sweet. And so I thank you so much for all of your time and effort.
No, thank you, man. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
My pleasure. We have much more to come on Cityline. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
People in Tacoma of all ages and incomes deserve the opportunity to grow up and grow old in their community, which means we must increase housing choice, affordability, and supply. While there isn't an overnight fix, we can take steps today to allow for different types of housing that respect the scale and design of our neighborhoods, while helping us thrive now, in a decade, and beyond. Learn more at cityoftacoma.org/home-in-Tacoma.
Each day in Tacoma, more than 420 adults request beds at homeless shelters. More than 100 will be turned away because there isn't space.
Welcome back to Cityline. With me, I have somebody who I have not spoken with in probably a good minimum 6 months, maybe even 8. I've been wondering how he is and how his company is doing, and now we get to find out. I'm talking about Kurt Bailey. Kurt is the president and CEO of Bloodworks Northwest. Kurt, welcome back to Cityline.
Well, thank you, Amanda. It's a pleasure to see you, and I appreciate being welcome back to the show.
Well, it's always great to see you. Now, I understand that there's a national blood shortage. That does not surprise me. How is this impacting Bloodworks?
Well, nationally, blood stocks are quite low. And in fact, across the nation with the independent blood centers, as well as the Red Cross, there's reports that supplies are down by at least 10%. Consequently, patients around the country are in need of blood every day and at risk of not getting it. Here in the Pacific Northwest, we're keeping up, but really just barely. And what's happening is our hospitals are very, very full. And like many other parts of the economy and healthcare, we're having our own staffing shortages. And so it's very, very difficult to keep the blood supply at pace with what patients need here in our region.
So, Kurt, I've heard that we're hearing that some blood types are down to less than a day. What does that mean for us?
Well, at Bloodworks, we hold stocks of blood for the region. It's sort of like a safety stash in case there's a really unusual need for blood in the Pacific Northwest. Now, the hospitals have their supplies for daily use for patients that they are treating. What we hold is the stocks that then get sent out to the hospitals to replenish them, plus a little extra just in case. And it's that just in case amount that we're really worried about, because we do sometimes have tragic events. We have the Amtrak derailment, we had the duct tour crash, we have had shootings in the past. And then sometimes it's just bad weather or some other factor that makes it hard to collect blood. And so when our central reserve gets low, we start to get worried. And that's not a good thing for the community.
No. And we're also hearing that there's a national shortage of platelets. Mm-hmm. And I would be remiss if I didn't ask you to tell us, if someone doesn't know, what is a platelet and why is this concerning?
Well, the human blood is really a marvel, and it isn't so simple as blood. In fact, it has some constituent parts, and one of the cells within your blood, it's really a cell fragment, is called a platelet. And the platelet is what helps you clot. So if you don't have platelets and you're bleeding, that's a problem. Some patients, particularly those patients undergoing cancer treatment, have depleted platelets. And as a result, they need a transfusion. The thing with platelets, well, there's two cool things about them, or interesting things about them. One is they don't last very long. So we can only keep them for 5 to 7 days. They go, they're only useful for that period. So you have to use them very quickly. So it's kind of tough to match how many donors we have and how many patients we have. The other amazing thing, though, is that if you donate platelets, you can donate them quite often because Mother Nature has given you an abundance of platelets. You have far, far more than you require. And so you can donate platelets much more frequently than you can donate whole blood.
Well, that would make sense now in terms of the shortage, that because the shelf life is just a window in there, isn't it? So we're experiencing now what's called the perfect storm of factors: confusion over donor eligibility after vaccines, staffing shortages that you mentioned, and a growing number of no-shows. So why is the no-show factor a big deal, Kurt?
Well, we are appointment only. And so appointment only helps us keep everybody socially distant. It ensures that our centers are not congested. It's not a big mob. The other thing is actually donors really like it because when you have an appointment, you show up, you register on your phone. It's all electronic now. And all of a sudden you're getting your vitals tested and you're, before you know it, donating red cells or platelets or whatever you've come in for. So it works really nicely. The difficulty is if you don't show up for your appointment, well, no one else shows up to replace you because it's an appointment. So you got to show up. Otherwise, don't make it. So we really urge people to think about the appointment as a promise. And if you promise to come donate, please keep your promise. And if you're not ready to make that promise, hey, make it for a day further out. Because what's important is that you make the appointment, you keep the appointment, and then when you're there, you make your next appointment. And it's all about creating this habit of donating back to your community.
Absolutely. Just like when you leave the dentist, the first thing you do is make another appointment. There we go. So let's talk about staffing, because that certainly is in the headlines. It seems like there is not a business or a corporation that doesn't have staffing shortage in their vocabulary. You're having problem finding enough blood collectors, also known as phlebotomists. So what are you doing to address that, Kurt?
Well, we are pretty aggressively recruiting phlebotomists across all of BloodWorks, and we operate from the Canadian border all the way down to South Central Oregon. Like many employers, we are offering financial incentives, signing bonuses, retention bonuses, increases in compensation. So we are attempting to be competitive, because we do know that those who are looking for opportunities have a lot of them to choose from. We also believe that in the case of BloodWorks, for many people, it's an extraordinary chance to be part of life-saving work. And for those persons who really find purpose in helping their community, find purpose in improving the health of others, find purpose in giving back, BloodWorks not only should be a financially rewarding place to work, but it also should be a very personally rewarding place to work as well. So over time, we're hoping to recruit really quite a large number of phlebotomists at BloodWorks. We're excited by the opportunity to continue to expand and are optimistic that we'll be able to do so in the coming months. But the reality is it takes time. We're not the only company in this boat. And so it's going to require a little bit of patience as we rebuild the team and in turn increase our ability to collect ever more blood.
If we have some phlebotomists who are watching right now, can they get more information by going to your website?
I'm sure they can, and please do. We would love to have those persons who are trained in phlebotomy, wherever you may have received your training or wherever you have experience. We would love to speak with you and hopefully welcome you to the BloodWorks family.
I love that. Kurt, how has the pandemic impacted BloodWorks?
Well, the effects have been really fascinating. So on the one hand, it's been a rough ride, because at first we were really worried that the blood supply would collapse as all of our mobile drives had to shut down. We can't use our buses anymore because you can't socially distance on a blood bus. Kids weren't in schools, so we couldn't go to schools. That was a really scary period. But on the other hand, Amanda, when we asked the community to turn out in order to make sure that we had enough blood, even though we couldn't do mobile blood drives, the community responded in a way that was really beautiful. And what a remarkable example of our humanity and caring for one another. So that was a good thing. We discontinued our mobile program, but then we invented this idea of the pop-up donor center, where we set up for prolonged periods in venues that otherwise aren't being used. T-Mobile Park was a fabulous example, 10 weeks, sponsored by the Mariners. Boeing Museum of Flight, the Moore Theater, the Paramount, Portland Art Museum. It was just really a great way to use these venues for community good that otherwise, even though iconic, weren't very busy during the pandemic. So that was a good thing. We went from folks walking into our centers, which allowed us to be more flexible, I suppose, but it wasn't as good. It was not as good of an experience for our donors. The experience now is better. It's smoother. It's like your dentist's office. You walk in, you're in the chair, a few minutes later. Maybe I shouldn't compare donating blood to going to the dentist. That was probably a bad thing. But anyway, it's really easy. And that was an innovation to go to appointment only, and we think donors really like it. So on the one hand, Amanda, it's been really a trial to try and keep up with the needs of the community and making sure that anyone who needs blood receives blood. But on the other hand, we're stronger now. And I do think the community will appreciate that strength in the years to come.
Absolutely. I mean, speaking with you months ago, when you mentioned the Museum of Flight, I thought that is such a genius idea to be looking at all these fabulous aircrafts while you're getting your arm, just gently poked. I'm there. So December 18th, it is State Blood Donor Day. So what is the message there? And what should we do?
Well, on December 18th is Blood Donor Day in the state of Washington, and by the way, in the state of Oregon. And for both of those states, it is a day in which we hope to remind everybody to become a habitual blood donor. I think of it as kind of part of being our keeper for our neighbors and our coworkers and our friends and our family. And it's that thing we do that we don't have to do, but when we do it, we just make the world a better place. And it can affect the lives of people around us. 1 in 6 Americans will be transfused. So if you think about the size of a family, well, it's pretty likely that someone in your immediate family is going to need blood. Well, where's that blood going to come from? It's going to come from a stranger who decided, not ever knowing where their gift would go, came in and donated because they knew it would go to someone who would need it. And that's a pretty special thing and a pretty remarkable example of humanity. And that's what we hope State Blood Donor Day will commemorate.
So this may seem like such an obvious question, but given all that we've talked about, how can our viewers do something to help right now? If they feel the urge to donate, how do they go about doing that? If they want to show up just for December 18th, how do they go about doing that?
Well, thanks for asking it that way. They can't all show up on December 18th.
No,
we don't have enough people to collect them. So you've got to make your appointment. And what's hard, because when we want to help now. That's just people. Well, what's hard is the way you help actually is in 2 steps. You help now by making the appointment, and then you help later by keeping your appointment. And when you're there, we're going to ask you to make your next appointment, but just do those 2 steps. So it's a 2-step process, which does delay the feeling like I want to help right this second. But if you just make that appointment, keep that appointment. And an appointment made next week or the week after is no less valuable than an appointment made for tomorrow. An appointment next week or the week after is actually really precious because it helps us understand what is the amount of blood that's flowing in over time. And that's really important right now as we're just a little bit less flexible than we've been and our supplies are a little bit lower than we'd like. So make the appointment, keep the appointment.
Kurt, you always show up with your full heart, with your head and your mind and your soul connected. I couldn't think of a better person in our community to be in charge of blood than you. So thank you, Kurt, so much for your time, for your team, all of the hours and the hard work that you've been putting in. You don't stop thinking about blood supplies. You wake up and think about them. You go to bed thinking about them. So there's no way for us to pay you back for your gift of time. But I'm going to echo what you just said. Make an appointment and keep it. Kurt, thank you so much for being here today.
It's a delight, Amanda. Thank you as always. Wonderful to join you.
You're more than welcome. We have much more to come on Cityline. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Put the keys down, Kevin.
But I'm gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
My text to emoji ratio has gotten a little out of hand.
A little?
Yep, I'm definitely gonna call a ride home.
While consumer use of electronics continues to grow, the environmental footprint continues to shrink, thanks to lighter, less material-intensive, and more energy-efficient products. The Consumer Technology Association and its members want to help minimize environmental impacts by making recycling old tech devices as easy as buying new ones. Your old TV, smartphone, or computer can give new life to new products. Go to greenergadgets.org, put in your zip code, and find convenient drop-off locations. Live green, buy green, and recycle responsibly at greenergadgets.org.
Welcome back to Cityline. With me, this is a historic moment on Cityline because these next 3 people are always busy. Behind the scenes, on the stage, in the box office, marketing. We're talking about Tacoma Little Theater and Tacoma Musical Playhouse coming together on this show, but also for this show we're going to talk about. Please join me in welcoming Chris Surface. You are the Managing Artistic Director for Tacoma Little Theater. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you so much, Amanda. As always, a pleasure to see you.
Good to see you too. And you brought with you your partner in crime, number one, because you've got two this time. John Douglas Rake, you are the managing artistic director of Tacoma Musical Playhouse. Welcome back, John.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you here. And you brought with you, both of you, this amazing young woman, Lexi Barnett. You are the creative director of why we are here to talk today about All Together Now. And this is your first time on the show. Lexi, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. So first question for John and Chris, and I'll have John go first on this one. Is this the first time that your two theaters have worked together on a project?
In a long time, way back before Chris existed, TMP and TLT worked together on a couple of little shows and some projects. But it has been a long time.
Chris, so long, does this feel like a first time, or does this feel like it's been a long time also?
It predates my time in doing theater in Tacoma. The great thing is, while it's our first big project we're working on in our current 10 years together, it's not the first time we shared resources. That's one of the great things about being just down the street from each other, is we often share resources, both in people, costumes, set pieces, props. It's a great energy and synergy between both theaters.
Yes, it is. Which brings me, Chris, to my next question of what made you decide to work on this project together?
John and I were both together, I think, when we found out about this project through MTI. And we looked at each other and said, why would we want to do this separately from each other when it would only be more fun to do it together? It's a chance for the community to come together. Our actors work at both theaters. Instead of making them choose, well, I want to do it at this theater or this theater, it was a chance for us to come together and celebrate all together now what theater is really all about.
Oh my gosh, those are some pearls of wisdom right there. Two theaters back and forth. John, how is it for you in the sense that TMP is a full service shop as well as Tacoma Little Theater, but you are someone, you have music in-house, you have a lot of things in-house. So what would make you want to reach out and collaborate with Tacoma Little Theater on this?
Well, many things, as Chris said, that we do share, and then the ability to, if Lexi needed sets or things like that, we could do it right here at TMP. And sound and lights and projections, and Tacoma Little Theater can also do those things too with their technical staff. But we just decided that TMP was a bigger theater, could handle more, and we had a few more resources like rehearsal spaces and things like that. So that's kind of why we decided on TMP.
I love that. So John and Chris, both of you know an array of talented people. I mean, you don't want for having those people kind of at your fingertips. Question for both of you, and John, I'll hit you first on this one. What made you select Lexi? And Lexi, don't be embarrassed, as the creative director.
Black out your screen, Lexi. No, Lexi started working for me in our family theater and has directed some of our productions, and she's always been really creative and really well at selecting casts that fit those parts, and then taken that show above beyond just the book and the script. She's been very creative. So we were thinking, okay, well, we need a person that can pull this together, because it's basically a skeleton of a show. There isn't a whole lot to go on. And so we knew that Lexi hadn't been working, and she's doing a lot of other things at this time, but we know that she loves theater. And so we thought this would be great for her to work, because she's worked at TLT as well. And so to bring her together to be, working for both of us is the perfect person.
I love that. Chris, do you have anything to add to that?
I do. Another thing, as we stepped back and looked at it, is that it needed to be somebody other than John or I directing it. And Lexi was that perfect person to unite the community. One of the great ideas she had for it, which I'm sure she'll talk more about, so I won't too much about it, is it's 15 songs. And so she reached out to directors from all across our community and joined them together to bring it. John and I are both directing a number within the show itself, but Lexi's been that person at the wheel steering it along with her partner in crime, Leishan Moore, who's the musical director for the project.
Yes, boy. When you say Lexi Barnett and Leisha Moore, I hear the sound of music somewhere in my background. I don't know why that is. So Lexi, let's get to you. How many people are in the show? What are rehearsals like? Are they different than what you expected? Spill the tea.
Yeah, this show has over 60 actors in it. We wanted to make this show an opportunity for everybody to be a part of it. And so we tried to structure rehearsals in the off performance times, off rehearsal times. So Sunday evenings, Friday evenings, different times like that, so that we could include as many people as possible. So there's 15 different numbers like we talked about. There's 12 different directors or choreographers that come from various areas and working at both of the theaters. And it's a really fun mix of actors, as far as a lot of new people, new to me people, and also very familiar faces for the audiences who have seen shows at TLT or TMP. So that's been really fun. We've been scheduling rehearsals here and there, and it's been crazy.
Well, speaking of that, Lexi, what would you say has been your biggest challenge directing this production when you use that word crazy, which I totally agree with?
Yeah, I think that there's just a lot of coordinating and scheduling, especially when bringing in other people who are creatives, right? So there's that coordinating of making sure I understand the individual directors' visions. How can I best support them? How can I make sure that we're arriving on time with, things being staged in a timely manner, to just making sure all the actors feel comfortable. Do they all have their sheet music? Have we coordinated all the schedules? So that has been probably the craziest. I think coming back after COVID, one of the things that is, we're not used to working at the paces that we used to work at, right? So I think we're all feeling that, like, okay, here we go.
I love that. So Lexi, let's talk about the show and how it's laid out. And then I want to hear from all of you why people should come see this show. You don't have to convince me, but so Lexi, how is it laid out? You've got 60 people. I'm assuming it's a musical.
Yes. So this is the rights company that licensed this piece has 15 different songs from well-known musicals. So we start off with Be Our Guest. We've got songs from Ragtime. We've got songs from Thoroughly Modern Millie. We've got Newsies, Mary Poppins, Rent, Hairspray, like all sorts of numbers. So throughout the night, we will have big group numbers, solo numbers. So it's kind of a staged concert. And then throughout, we also have some video elements and times to speak with the audience about kind of all that's transpired in the last 18 plus months in Tacoma Theater, and where we've been and where we're hoping to go, and celebrating that.
Love that. Okay, so Chris, let's start with you. Why should people come and see the show?
It is a celebration of the return. Both John and I have had shows open at our theaters already, and we've slowly started to see audiences grow. But this is that chance for people to come back and just come together and really enjoy the fact that performing arts are back in our area, and we're ready to go forward and move into what that brings us as we go through the next few months, as we go further into our seasons. It's a chance to be welcomed, and also a chance to support both theaters as we come out of the pandemic and the fact that we didn't do anything for 18 months in person live on our stages. This is that opportunity to kind of help the theaters out.
Yeah, it is. John, in your mind, why should people come see this show?
Well, after being pent up for almost 2 years, we need entertainment. And this show is very much entertaining. And just a little quick side note too, this show, the licensing company is trying to break a world record of the most productions on the same weekend of the same show. And over 5,000 productions are taking place across the world. So anybody who comes to see the show is going to be part of a world record.
I love that. So let's make sure that we know that it's November 12th to 14th, Friday and Saturday at 7:30 p.m. and Sunday at 2 p.m. Will there be any rumors, John and Chris, of adding more shows as people are on the wait list to get in to see it?
Unfortunately, MTI, the company that licensed at Music Theater International, has only made it available this weekend. And so you can only do it November 12th. They gave you a Monday that you could do it, but both John and I have rehearsals in our theaters that night, so we wouldn't be able to do it. So this is it. You've got these 3 performances. Tickets are available and they're going fast. Both you can get them either at Tacoma Musical Playhouse or at Tacoma Little Theater. Just a reminder that all performances are at Tacoma Musical Playhouse, 7116 6th Avenue, in their beautiful facility.
I love that. So, okay, last question. John and Chris, Lexi, yes, you did a great job. You can relax for a second. What are your upcoming holiday productions? Because shows go on, don't they? So, John, what can we expect to see on the main stage at TMP for the holidays?
Our holiday show, which opens the day after Thanksgiving, is Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella, the Enchanted Edition. And what it is the show that's based on Cinderella, the Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella, but it has a very ethnically diverse cast.
Yes.
And it's really cool because, you know, Cinderella is a fairy tale. And so it doesn't say that it has to be a Caucasian person. And so we have an African-American Cinderella and fairy godmother and a very ethnically diverse cast. And it's just, you shouldn't miss it because it is going to be a beautiful show.
I love that. Chris, what do you have on that in that brand new theater?
We are going down the yellow brick road and we're taking you to the wonderful Wizard of Oz. We're doing the Wizard of Oz December 10th through the 31st. We have 16 performances all the way up to New Year's Eve. The matinee on New Year's Eve. We want you to go out and have fun in the evening that night. Andrew Koopman, who is directing our production, is a phenomenal director. They have brought some new dynamics to the show. This will be my 3rd time being a part of the Wizard of Oz. I'm actually in this one. I auditioned for it and I'm excited. And Andrew's direction and guidance is phenomenal. They've done some great things with casting. There'll be some different looks to things than you've normally seen. If you expect to walk in and see the grand old movie, you'll see elements of it, but it'll also be a little special spin on what Andrew and TLT are bringing to it.
I love that. Our time has come to an end. Thank you, all 3 of you, for the hours that you've put in on this project, the teams that are with you shoulder to shoulder, and what a gift you have given to Tacoma to help us come all together now and start over again. So thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda.
Well, that wraps up another great segment of Cityline. It is always a pleasure and a privilege to be in your home. We've given you some really amazing things to do in our community. So please, before you do that, if you are not vaccinated, get yourself vaccinated, wear a mask, go out there and pay it forward. And when you come back, as always, we'll be waiting for you right here at Cityline. Take care.
Come on, that's my home, from the pines to the dawn. Come on, that's my home, yeah, come on, that's my home. Come on, that's my home, place I call my own. Come on, that's my home, yeah, come on, that's my home. All right, you're from the East Coast, all right, you're from the West, all right, you're from the middle, but Tacoma's still the best. All right, you're from the East Coast, all right, you're from the West, all right, you're from the middle, but Tacoma's still the best. Hey, Tacoma, that's my home, from the pines to the dawn. Tacoma, that's my home, yeah, Tacoma, that's my home. Tacoma, that's my home, place I call my own. Tacoma, that's my home, yeah, Tacoma, that's my home. Tacoma, that's my home, from the pines to the dawn.